Gaming is on the decline. There have been numerous drought periods in that industry in the past couple of years, where all we have been given are hopeful mirages of a potential oasis. An oasis which is not provided, even though they were supposed or promised to be handed to us in numerous occasions, which sadly weren't true, leaving us gamers with that unquenchable thirst. Or that's what the majority of this impatient community likes or wants to think. If they don't get a masterpiece every year, then it's the end of gaming. There is no hope left. The extension is here. Gaming as we know it is doomed. It is just not as unique or bursting of imaginative ideas as it used to be in the good old days. That boom of new concepts is nowhere to be seen nowadays. Oh, those prime days, where games used to be stored in an easily damageable plastic disc that handily came in guess what? A plastic case. Now that's what I call the golden period of gaming. When playing games was actually fun and made up for an enthralling experience, rather than this digital era, which is more accessible, player-friendly, and has lower crippling effect to the environment. But who needs that when we can have broken games, riddled with bugs, with no ways of fixing them, and being stuck in that perpetual cycle of what do I do with it? Sounds like a wonderful time. Well, all jokes aside, there is a downside to the whole gaming industry being so mainstream in this internet age and being a hub for making bucket loads of cash without pouring an ounce of that effort juice. The oversaturation that it brought with it is something that every entertainment medium suffers from. It becoming that convenient has its benefits, but there are the downsides too. And one of the downcomings is, it decreases the lifespan of a game. They used to last longer and had a way better longing effect, which now is dumbed down to yearly releases to escalate that profit margin. Another neglected facet in the games we get nowadays, pretty similar to how lacking the co-op department has been as the years go by. Longevity doesn't come to mind when I think of current gaming titles. Most of them are busy creating a franchise rather than focusing on making one solid, long-lasting game that can serve the players for a substantial amount of time, as the former one has far better financial benefits. Or, in the least, let the fans take hold of the wheel once they are done with it. A function or a group of various different decisions which leads to the birth of that community-like feel is the prime focus in this video. Yes, I know, the title is most probably saying something about mods in video games. But my mind goes on numerous tangents while collecting those thoughts to be cemented just to a single topic. Hence, I will be rambling about several subject matters. From mods that became self-standing titles, to games whose communities are still thriving through the means of making modifications to improve those old and dated mechanisms, enhancing the whole experience and extending their lifespan. So, without much structure and lacking the conviction in critical analysis, let's just appreciate this wonderful side of gaming. To resemble any sort of semblance to a format, I'm going to begin with games who have great communities that continue to add heap tons of content to their beloved titles. From huge overhauling features that alters the game entirely, to minor quality of life sort of changes that makes the overall experience more bearable and efficient, polishing all those rough and rugged edges. And to showcase examples for this particular segment, I have decided to use Terraria. Of course I have. It can't be a gaming related video of mine without me, somehow, shoehorning this title as a sample. A huge part of why Terraria is still so popular after being in the gaming hemisphere for more than a decade is because of its robust community, who keep expressing their creativity through the means of making mods for it. Yes, the developers are a blessing for still providing the players with free updates that adds more items, enemies, weapons, and whatnot to its already gigantic catalog that takes a great deal of time to deplete its fun juice. With dozens of hidden or rare stuff to discover and various classes that changes the whole gameplay. the vanilla version of the game in itself is a gift that keeps on giving, even when you think there isn't anything to be achieved. But after I felt exhausted from that whole experience, I turned my eyes to Tmod Loader, a version of the game that helps you add mods that the workshop doesn't or can't technically provide. And it just blew my mind with how interesting and game-changing the mods were, opening an entirely different door of endless possibilities and a second chance to relive that mystical feeling of discovering new lands. No matter if the developers decide to update the game or not, the modding community are more than competent enough to keep that torch lit to lighten its way for new adventurers. As it doesn't matter if a game has a really active developing team who are always cooking something for the fans, or the cauldron has been left alone to be dusted, only to be picked by the players to serve for themselves. If there is an intent to give people a means to add more to the game, then it will always keep on living, adding years and years to the title's lifespan, one mod at a time. Other than giving a sense of belonging, it enriches the life of people who develop and play those mods, helping them to find like-minded people to converse and be around with. And on that sweet note, let's move on to the next category of mods in video games, which isn't entirely different, but sits on a different scale with its effect on a larger scope. The idea for this video emerged from me overthinking about how completed or games whose developers have moved on to a different pasture continuing to prosper without any financial gain. Nobody is fattening their pockets from this whole process, not the developers who instigated that feature or the ones who sell their works through that means. It is a very selfless action and a respectable endeavor which is hardly prominent in the current gaming market, especially in the AAA titles, who lack or don't encourage that, for the obvious doesn't make us money reasons. Yet, there is one who chooses to do that without any substantial personal gain, making it the focal point for this criteria, which is an amalgamation of numerous thoughts that are tough to summarize. Anyways, that makes up for a very anticlimactic reveal, and that being games which are developed by Valve and their branching teams, one of the top dogs out of all the other dogs, I guess. The George R.R. Martin of the gaming industry, reminiscent of the father who loved to get milk, showing up once every whatever the rarest type of moon is. The answer was pretty divisive online. Which makes it perfect for the topic in hand. There are certain titles from Valve who fit the bill for being carried by their respective communities for almost a decade, which is not a bad quality to have. Yes, that means official updates are extremely scarce, or that exciting period full of new improvements doesn't last for a long time. However, that paves a path for the players of said games to take matters in their own hand, and Valve does more than enough to assist them and not hamper that whole procedure, which seems like the obvious thing to do. Still, we have other AAA developers who go out of their way to impede that system. The reason their games are flourishing is because of their fan base, from Team Fortress to CSGO, the latter having numerous fan-made maps being used officially, something that is lacking in other modern titles, while Left 4 Dead 2 still offers one of the best co-op experience, from minor weapon skin modifications and fully fleshed out maps to boasting one of the most cooperative and unified fanbase. The developers imparting the players with tools to dig deeper in the game is the exact reason why their games are still thriving with lively communities with no signs of slowing down. Valve and their way or method of how they handle their games is very indie-like, allowing the players to widen and diversify the vision to a completely different level, refining the flaws and fallacies. Which allows for a smooth transition to my next and final talking point, for why mods extend the life expectancy of a title. And it is heavily related to another Valve game that I didn't mention earlier. And no, it isn't Portal, even though that game could have easily featured in here with a more prominent role. However, there was a better and more personally satisfying option: Black Mesa. A standalone title which originated from being a free mod for Half-Life 1, later being published as a remake for the original title, after Valve approved of its commercial release. Another sign displaying how supportive the developers are. Their decision to make Source Engine free of use to everyone is a highly respectable and admirable quality to have, as it had led to the creation of so many amazing mods and games, with Black Mesa being the most celebrated, well-known, and fully realized final product that arose from that software, improving various aspects that the source material lacked, from the obvious changes being better textures and visuals to some that were much appreciated, like focusing on finer details and revamped level and puzzle design. While the most anticipated one was reworking and expanding the Zen, the final chapters from the original game, which are immensely pleasing to look at in this remade version. As someone who never completed or played a great deal of the first title, because Half-Life 2 was more exciting to play, Black Mesa gave me an opportunity to experience that without feeling dated. A perfect game to stream, as even though it conveys a strong underlying message, the mechanics it has allows for countless hilarious and amusing moments, since the game doesn't take itself that seriously. And all of it was possible because Valve endorses the whole process, not standing in their way, but aiding them throughout the entire proceeding, while not earning a single dime from it. Yes, a case can be made about all the public affection they gained is more valuable and has a better long-term effect. Still, it doesn't cost us anything to reap the benefits of that service, which is the entire appeal of mods in video games. Getting more of something that you love and enjoy delivered by people with identical sentiments. There is rarely any downside to it. And developers who provide all those creative fans with well-made and functioning tools to save the game in the way they see fit always fills my heart with a warm tingly feeling. It doesn't matter if it is a game that I admire or not, or how much of an antisocial bitch I am. The community built by them is a gratifying sight. I love witnessing them from afar. Now that is a weird way to phrase that. Oh, so we are ending on that line. Okay, I'm fine with it. I don't give a duck. Watch me move at this ending segment.